You have a will or trust providing for the distribution of your assets. You expect your wishes to be honored, and generally they should be. But are there circumstances under which your wishes will not be followed? My law partner, Mike Solomon, has information we can all follow. So welcome to the show again.
Hello.
So aren't your will or trust, I mean, isn't that the determinative word on where assets go when you die?
Well, generally the answer is yes. As long as you're competent, you know what your assets are, you know who the proper heirs of your estate are, and you know the document you're signing that they're giving your assets to whoever it is you put in your will or your trust, then your documents are generally going to be followed.
Okay, so under what circumstances might your documents be legally challenged?
They're basically for four reasons. If you're under undue influence, duress, or there's fraud, or you're incompetent when you sign the documents.
Okay, can you give a little bit more explanation about those things?
Sure. So for example, undue influence means, you know, someone has so much influence over you that you've actually lost your own free will. They tell you to do something and you're going to really be influenced to follow it. Duress is, you know, I'm going to beat you up unless you, put me in the will. Fraud is you didn't even realize you were signing a will or a trust, or you didn't know the terms of the trust. And incompetence means you just don't know what you're doing. You're incompetent. You can't sign a will. If one of those things happens, your will and trust could be kicked out.
Okay, I think an example might help a little bit on explaining some of that.
Okay, so let's say your will and your trust provide that on your death everything goes to your children. And then later on, you become unable to handle your own affairs, you're sick, your kids are all out of town, and all of a sudden a nephew appears out of nowhere, or you know, a relative, and they say, oh, I'll help you, I'll take care of you, and your kids, you know, they're not coming into town because they don't like you, and you start influencing you to change your will. Maybe they call an attorney, they arrange for you to meet a new attorney, you do a new will, and you draft, all of a sudden they're the beneficiary, that niece or nephew. And then that might be a reason to argue undue influence.
Okay, so the kids could come in and maybe get that one thrown out.
That's right.
Get back and rightfully.
Right.
So, now, but what if we're drafting a will or trust and we really do want the nephew to get those assets, and the children may not be really so happy about that? How do you make sure your will is going to be followed?
Well, number one, you ought to sit down with a qualified attorney who will go through the formal process of making sure you know what you're doing and taking notes and having it signed and having a couple witnesses sign and maybe even do a memo so to remember the fact pattern. Make sure you know what documents you're signing. That's the sort of stuff you need to do. And don't change your will every 5 minutes. You know, that's always a weakness. If people constantly are changing their estate planning documents, it begins to look like you don't really have any set mind on this sort of thing, and again, you're easily influenced at that point.
Okay, well, those are good tips to keep in mind. So follow Mike's advice to make sure your will or trust is followed when you die. For more information, use the number coming up next.
Call Solomon, Steiner and Peck at 1-888-236-5173 for more information, or to schedule a speaker for your organization, or log on to www.ssnplaw.com.
Thanks for joining us. On next week's show, what are the top 3 financial concerns? We have the answer and advice. We'll look at eye ailments that arise as we age and see what can be done. And if your spouse dies, can you still access your joint bank accounts? We'll help you bank on it. But until then, please remember to make the most of your golden opportunities.
If you'd like to join our kitchen conversation, visit our website, www.goldenopportunities.tv. Like us on Facebook. Call us at 440-742-GO-TV or email us at kitchen@goldenopportunities.tv. We'd love to hear from you.
Golden Opportunities is paid for by Elder Productions.